Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March 2024 LEA Special Education Point of Contact webinar. A copy of today's presentation is available for download through GoToWebinar. To access the document, expand Handouts under the menu and select the icon, then select Download. We'll give everyone a little bit of time to get logged in, and then we'll get started. Again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March LEA Special Education Point of Contact webinar. My name is LaShonda Wilson, and I'm an Education Program Specialist here at OSSE. I'm joined by my OSSE colleagues across multiple divisions as we present content pertinent to policy, monitoring, systemic supports, and professional development for LEA SPED POCs. We'll begin this morning with policy reminders and updates and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, monitoring and updates, then segue into transportation reminders and updates, and then also teaching and learning reminders and updates. We'll conclude today with announcements and reminders. All right, I'll hand it over now to Christy Weaver-Harris to review policy reminders and updates. Christy?
Good morning, everybody. This is Christy Weaver-Harris. I'm the policy manager in the Division of Systems and Supports K-12 and the Office of Special Education. Today I'm going to go over some ESY information, and we're also going to talk a little bit about summer obligations. Next slide, please. All right, as you know, ESY, or Extended School Year Services, are services provided beyond the normal school year for students for whom the IEP team has determined those services are necessary for the provision of FAPE. LEAs must ensure each student has an ESY eligibility determination, including completing IEP amendments if necessary. You also have to determine and report your ESY service dates by entering ESY calendars in the appropriate data systems. You have to complete a TRF for each student who is eligible for ESY related transportation. And you need to be reporting attendance by the end of the ESY period. And this is especially necessary for charter schools to receive ESY per pupil funding. We will once again be releasing an ESY preparation guide as we did last year in the next couple of weeks. It is largely the same as last year's, as the processes have not changed. But if you have any questions about ESY, please feel free to reach out. Next slide, please. So this is the list of specific activities that each LEA must complete and the due dates associated with those tasks. The ESY certification date is always the first Monday in May, which this year is Monday, May 6th. So you have to have all of these tasks completed by Monday, May 6th. Please note that some of these tasks must be completed before others. For example, student eligibilities must be completed programs 1 day before a TRF can be submitted, 1 business day. It's important. IDS will be available for TRF submissions starting Monday, March 25th. So that's coming up. You should be able to start submitting your ESY TRFs starting on Monday, March 25th. Next slide. To have a successful ESY season, there are some continuing obligations after the ESY certification deadline. LEAs must assign students to ESY site locations and document student attendance in the SLED ESY module. Entering ESY attendance, as I said before, is especially important for charter funding. You receive per pupil funding based on reported attendance, and every year we have a few LEAs who fail to submit attendance data or miss the deadline for that. Don't be that guy. We want to make sure you're getting your money. You also need to be completing service trackers and completing progress reports for ESY within 5 business days after ESY ends for your LEA. You need to be doing that in the student's file in special programs. Next slide, please. If you have any questions about ESY related activities, please contact the folks listed on this slide. Again, we're going to be releasing that ESY prep guide that is going to look largely the same as last year's with some updated dates and a little bit of updated information, but the processes are largely the same, even with the change to special programs. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the folks listed on this slide. Next slide, please. All right, in preparation for the release of My School DC lottery results later this month, we want to review LEA obligations related to the transition of children leaving Part C services and entering LEAs. This can be a point of confusion, so we want to make sure we're reminding LEAs of your obligations under district regulations. So DCPS and charter LEAs have slightly different responsibilities depending on the student's enrollment. Public charter school LEAs are responsible for children who are currently enrolled and attending the LEA, so it's your stage 5 enrolled students, and students who are stage 4 enrolled for the upcoming school year. So these are the students who accept a seat in your charter school for the upcoming 24-25 school year. DCPS is responsible essentially for everyone else transitioning into an LEA. This means students who are currently enrolled in DCPS schools, and resident children who are not otherwise enrolled in a charter school. So that can include students who are not enrolled in any school, students who are in daycares, students who are homeschooled, and students who are enrolled in private or religious schools. And that actually includes both resident and non-resident students who are parentally placed in a private school. DCPS takes care of all of that. They have a whole office for it. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for your LEA? Under IDEA and local law, LEAs must ensure the smooth end for students coming over from IDEA Part C, including attending transition conferences as appropriate, developing an IEP by that child's 3rd birthday, and implementing the IEP by the child's 3rd birthday. And this is all as appropriate. That is different meanings at different stages of the process. It's appropriate to attend the transition conference when you are invited. So when you receive that transition conference invitation from Strong Start, and when that child is enrolling in your LEA. So if that child is stage 4 enrolled, they've accepted the seat for the upcoming school year, you need to be attending the transition conference and come prepared, ready to speak about the programming available at your school and what that child and that parent may experience. It is appropriate to develop an IEP for a child by their 3rd birthday if the child is determined eligible after you complete the eligibility process. And it's appropriate to implement the IEP when the child actually attends your LEA, that is stage 5 enrollment. You have to implement that IEP based on some specific timelines that we have, but the gist of it is that you need to be providing specialized instruction on that child's first day of stage 5 attendance. So the first day that child comes into your school and attends school, you need to be providing specialized instruction and completing the first provision of specialized instruction for a document in special programs. You also need to provide each related service at least once within the first 14 days of stage 5 enrollment. If you have any questions about this, you can please feel free to reach out to Sarah Peisch at sarah.peisch1@dc.gov. You can also reach out to me with some questions, and I will keep an eye on the questions box for the remainder of the webinar. Back to you, LaShonda.
Thank you, Christy. I'll turn it over now to Karen Morgan-Donaldson to review some IDEA monitoring reminders and updates. Karen?
Great, thank you, LaShonda. Next slide, please. Okay, OSSE's transition from DC CATS to Stepwell, as you know, has been delayed. And we do know now that it will be delayed until this summer or start of school. So please continue to utilize DC CATS for monitoring activities as appropriate. Again, stay tuned for updates about specific dates for the rollout as well as training information. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide provides information about upcoming IDEA monitoring activities. Coming up in April, OSSE will conduct monitoring in the areas of secondary transition requirements, which is indicator 13 in the APR, as well as reevaluation timeliness. So the time periods being monitored in these areas are Q2 and Q3, which is October 1, 2023 to March 30th, 2024. So what does this mean for your LEA? This means that any secondary transition plans that were or will be completed as part of a student's IEP can be pulled for monitoring purposes. It also means that any reevaluation or triannual eligibility that is untimely will be flagged. If you have any questions about these monitoring activities, please reach out to me, Karen Morgan-Donaldson, or you can also reach out to your IDEA monitor, Deborah Melville. In a couple slides, LaShonda will be providing additional information about secondary transition monitoring and available technical assistance. So we'll get to that in a few slides. Okay, next slide, please. This is just your friendly reminder of the open compliance reports in DC CATS. I want to flag for you that prong 2 for secondary transition and reevaluation timeliness. Prong 2 is due for both of those reports on June 5th. If you have any questions about the status of your reports, whether it be prong 1, prong 2, or you just have any general questions, please reach out to your IDEA monitor, Deborah Melville. Okay, and our next slide, please. This is another just update. We have granted an extension to all LEAs to provide us with information about any students that you have on your rosters that have a visual impairment. So as the state education agency, OSSE is required to serve as the ex officio trustee to assist in providing materials for students with visual impairments. So each year Congress appropriates funds to the American Printing House, or APH, to conduct an annual census of students with visual impairments in each state. And as part of those appropriated funds, we are able to provide materials to students throughout the district. If you have a student that qualifies as having a visual impairment, either as their primary disability or as part of a multiple disability, please contact Dana Hodges in the email listed here. And again, we have granted an extension until April 24th, 2024. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to LaShonda, who will provide some additional information about secondary transition monitoring and available technical assistance.
Thank you, Karen. OSSE will also be conducting our annual review of secondary transition files beginning on April 1st, 2024. So please be sure to conduct an internal pre-audit of your LEA's transition age student IEPs, and particularly their transition services. Transition services are a coordinated set of activities designed to facilitate a student's movement from school to post-school activities and are based on the student's needs, strengths, preferences, and interests. OSSE monitors based on an assurance that all students by their 14th birthday have a current transition plan in effect and the APR Indicator 13 requirements are met. Attached to this slide, you'll find the OSSE Secondary Transition Compliance Worksheet. We highly recommend that you download and utilize this resource when you're conducting your LEA's internal secondary transition file pre-audit. We also wanted to just provide an overview of the APR Indicator 13 requirements. When OSSE conducts this file review, we are reporting to the U.S. Department of Education what's based on the initial file review, so the initial pull and review of student files. The 8 requirements under APR Indicator 13 must be met in their entirety in order for the student's file to be deemed compliant. The indicators are as follows. Number 1, ensure there is an appropriate measurable post-secondary goal that addresses education or training, employment, and independent living, if applicable, after high school. Ensure post-secondary goals were updated annually. 3, ensure post-secondary goals were based on age-appropriate transition assessments. 4, ensure there are transition services in the IEP that will assist the student to meet post-secondary goals. 5, ensure transition services include courses of study that will enable the student to meet post-secondary goals. 6, ensure the annual goals are related to the student's transition services needs. 7, ensure the student was invited to the IEP meeting. Be sure there is documentation on file and special programs to evidence the student was invited to attend the IEP meeting no later than 1 day prior to the meeting. Due to the challenges within PowerSchool special programs that we know you all have experienced for the 2023-24 school year, IC will accept this year documented in-person conversation, phone call, email, text message, or student letter of invitation, which has been generated on your LEA's letterhead. If applicable, there is evidence that number 8 also is that if it's applicable, there's evidence that a representative of any participating agency was invited to the IEP meeting with the prior consent of the parent or student. As your secondary transition state lead, I am going to be offering office hours to support you as you prepare for the upcoming secondary transition monitoring cycle. Please be sure to email me directly to set up an hour to connect on March 28th, 2024, between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. If for any reason this date does not work for you, I am also flexible and willing to set up a separate time outside of our set office hours, but I definitely would like for us to, as much as possible, plan for the 28th. I can be reached at lashonda.wilson@dc.gov if you have any additional questions, comments, or concerns, or would like to set up an office hour with me directly. And that's it for IDEA monitoring reminders and updates for now. We'll turn it over now to Dion McAdoo and Chelsea Greer, for transportation reminders and updates.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chelsea Greer. I'm one of the community outreach specialists along with my partner, Dion McAdoo. Next slide, please. The deadline for calendar updates within IDS, of course, was August the 11th, 2023. Therefore, any ESY related changes to the calendars will require the submission of an OST ticket. If you email myself or Dion, unfortunately, we will not be able to process that request. Once you submit the OST ticket, please attach the calendar exception template. Please ensure timely submissions of all changes to ensure no impact to the transportation. For the most part, you guys have done a great job with submitting those OST tickets. However, if you do have an emergency closure or adjustment, please reach out to the OSSE DOT critical info box and submit that request. Those requests may be a pipe burst or a leak at your school. Next slide, please. Transportation-based eligibility terminations. Once it has been determined that a student is eligible to receive transportation services, your LEA should immediately submit, of course, a TRF. ICDOT provides round-trip transportation to and from the student's residence of record and school of enrollment. The processing time for a TRF is 3 to 10 business days, but I definitely want to point out that it could take up to 10 business days, but we may get it quicker than that, but just allow at least those 10 business days. A new TRF should be entered by your LEA for the following instances. Of course, the new school year, change of school, ESY, and change of addresses of transportation accommodation. Please let the parents and or guardians know if they do need a change of address, they would need to reach out to you. We have received several calls in our PRC center wanting to change addresses. So if you can let the parent know, of course, at the active IEP or the 504 meeting, any changes will need to be submitted to you guys. Again, if you have any questions, concerns, and or comments, please reach out to myself or Dion McAdoo. And that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. All right, we're going to go ahead and transition now to Buell Yem for teaching and learning reminders and updates. Buell?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bial Yim. I am the Instructional Systems Specialist for Special Education here at Division of Teaching and Learning. And here are the teaching and learning reminders and updates. Next slide, please. All right, this is a continued information on the implementation of DC Law 23-191 addressing dyslexia and other reading difficulties Amendment Act of 2020. Universal screening, mid-year screening of K-2 students should be completed and notification sent to students identified as being at risk. In regards to compliance, the OSSE's dyslexia compliance reporting page should reflect updated LEA statuses, and you could find out more about it through the link that's in the slides. All right, the dyslexia awareness modules is an annual requirement, and the new dyslexia awareness modules will be available on our OSSE's learning management system. And the new modules are for pre-K and K-5 and adolescent to adult serving educators. And these will be released in March 2024. Additional training on screener data analysis will be available in April for K-2 serving educators. If you need any support and if you need technical assistance, I highly encourage you to contact Dustin Tamsin at dustin.tamsin@dc.gov. Next slide, please. This is continued reminder that the mathematical reasoning for all students professional learning opportunities is happening next week. And this training will be a 2-day course on next week's Tuesday and Wednesday, which is March 26th and 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this will provide participants with 5 research-based strategies to teach all students how to think and reason mathematically. And participants who wish to receive the 12 professional learning units must attend both days, and they will receive the 12 professional learning units. And the registration link is included in the slide. And if you have any questions, please contact Miriam Oziel. Next slide, please. This is an update. The secondary transition community of practice is back. The secondary transition community of practice supports DC youth with disabilities as they transition into a self-directed life. Our secondary transition community of practice is a citywide cross-section of stakeholders who come together to strengthen our individual and collective ability for action. And the community of practice is led by School Talks Inclusive DC, and we convene regular monthly meetings, and small group solution-oriented opportunities are also available during the meetings. Most of the activities are happening through Zoom, but there's also a hybrid format as well. And you can find out more information by visiting the website. The link is included in the slide. And you could also find out more about the meeting dates and the time as well. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Kalicia Beatty at kalicia.beatty@dc.gov. Next slide, please. All right, again, another reminder for sign up to receive updates on our PD offerings through Teaching and Learning PD bulletins. We send this monthly PD bulletin to notify everybody about our upcoming PDs and great opportunities that you could connect with our other colleagues and educators in DC. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Buell. All right, we'll round out things now with a few announcements and reminders.
The Early Childhood Community of Practice is reconvening starting next Wednesday, March 27th. This is a community of practice for LEAs serving students ages 3 through 5. And our first topic is going to be family engagement strategies. Please go ahead and register to attend that. It's only going to be an hour long. The community practice will be for the next couple of months. If you have any questions about this, please contact Dawn Hilton at dawn.hilton1@dc.gov.
Thank you, Christy. All right, and if by chance you happen to miss a webinar, be sure to visit our webpage for the LEA Special Education Points of Contact monthly webinar series. A recording and a PDF version of the slides will be available within 1 week of the live webinar. You can also watch previous webinars and download any training resources and materials directly from the site. And our next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, April 10th at 10 a.m. So please be sure to mark your calendars accordingly. The school year is flying by and we are winding down to our last sets of webinars in the next 2 months. So you can expect, again, some chock full of content between April and May as well. All right, last month you all gave us such great feedback. We received 12 responses overall. Yay! Let's see if we can beat that number this month. We are diligently working behind the scenes and we want you all to know, we do want you to know in particular that we hear you in your requests for more information regarding special programs. And we are working together with our colleagues here within OSSE who spearhead this work to troubleshoot and determine a more streamlined approach for information. That said, we want to continue to receive any and all of your concerns, as well as what we are getting right with this monthly webinar. So take out your cell phone, turn on your camera, and scan the QR code you see on the screen here. You can also access the link to the survey at the bottom of this slide. Take a moment to take our survey. It will literally take you less than 3 minutes. In the meantime, we will go ahead and direct any questions we received in the chat. I will turn it over briefly to Christy. Do we have any questions in particular that have come in today that benefit the entirety of the group?
Yep, and if you look in the questions box, we've been answering quite a few of these questions publicly. So we got some questions around who's responsible for initial evaluations for students when they're transitioning from Part C between January and Stage 5 enrollment in August. So this is where it comes in that charter LEAs are responsible for students who are enrolled for the upcoming school year. This often happens after DC school lottery results come out. So you're really looking at like April to August, where you'll have those kiddos who are Stage 4 enrolled for the upcoming school year, for whom you should be attending transition conferences and initiating initial evaluations and completing those evaluations and developing IEPs. Sometimes in the middle of that transition, in the middle of that process, DCPS will have already been engaged, and then they will sometimes learn that a student is enrolling in a charter school. They may reach out to you to transition that referral over to the charter school. And part of that process is what Sarah Peisch at OSSE supports. Dawn Hilton used to do that work and still does chime in with us. So it really can get, I want to acknowledge that it can be challenging over the summer because there can be a lack of clarity. Sometimes DCPS is in the middle of the evaluation and the charter school's like, wait, we know this kid's coming. How do we get that from you? And that is where we want to be fostering that communication. Reach out to Sarah for support on those sorts of transitions. We got a question about ESY calendars. If you have questions around what did your LEA submit in like SLED modules or for other like administrative things, I always recommend that you reach out to your LEA data administrator because they're going to be your central point of contact for what sort of data system information has been communicated to OSSE. Oh, there was also a question around when the release date is for those dyslexia modules. I connected with Dustin Tampson in Teaching and Learning, who is responsible for those modules. And he let me know that they have had some like technology challenges that's been delaying the release, but that he is confident that they will be ready to be released by next week. So keep an eye out for those. I think that's everything.
Thank you, Christy. Again, we appreciate all of you all's feedback and also your questions, comments, or concerns. Please be sure, again, to complete the survey if you have not already done so, as we will be utilizing your feedback for content next month. And with that, we've reached the end of our webinar. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next month, and we hope everyone has a great day.